Hi guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. Today we're doing a tier list. It's been a while since we've visited The Walking Dead Season 2, but we finished our analysis and playthrough, a while back. And we yet to do this video. We did it for Season 1, we want to do it for Season 2. It does throw up some interesting characters. Jack, they're presented to us in alphabetical order, but we don't do things normally on the channel. We're a bit chaotic. I'll let you pick whoever you want at random, lad. And we'll start with them.
Let's start at the very end. Let's start with Walter. Do you want to kick it off, mate? Have you got any particular feelings on Walter?
Walter, he's not in the game long enough, is he? So, he's likeable. Yeah. It's weird. It's like, although he kind of goes against the group at one point, it is justified because he goes against, like, the bad side of your group or, like, a fuck-up in your group, right? So, like, I mean, it's B or C for me, right? Like, high C, low B. Do you have a preference?
I think so. I suppose, again, it comes back to that point that we have whenever we do these, is what are we ranking them on? Are we ranking them on, like, how well written they are, how well likeable they are, a bit of both? For me, I think he's got to be a bit of both, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Like, he's such a sympathetic character. I said this in the analysis series, but, like, the fact that he's in for half an episode and like this guy loses his partner, obviously dies as well. Yeah. There's no way of saving him. So yeah, I really like Walter, but of course, yeah, he's not fleshed out well enough for him to get into them top two bands. So maybe I feel like he's a B character, but I could see him maybe being at the lower end of B come the end of this list.
Okay, yeah. I'm happy to put him in B for now. We'll go for... I'm just going to pick at random here. We've got Serita here. So, Serita is an odd one because there's nothing too special about her, is there? She pretty much is there as a ploy to kind of like advance Kenny's plot and Kenny's arc. She's a nice enough character, but she's a bit wooden that I genuinely think I can't see her going higher than C, lad. I can't
either. I echo everything you just said. Yeah, she has a really cool death, but yeah. Like if I'm picking who's the better partner, her or the Katja, wasn't it, from season 1? I'm picking Katja. And even she wasn't amazing, So no, I think, sure. I think C's more than fair, mate.
Because at least with Walter, he kind of has... I just... There's something about that scene where he's holding a knife outside and he has a chilling side to him. And I think, like, weirdly, in half an episode, I feel he does more than Serita does in, like, 3 episodes. So... Or 2, actually. But...
Another thing with Walter as well is that, like, I know people might say, but, Walter can... outright like just let Nick die. I think like that might sound a bit sadistic, a bit dark, but given the circumstances that he got put through, and obviously Nick was the one to shoot Matthew, like his partner, I feel like there's people that can maybe say that was some justice or some karma being dealt there for him not helping Nick in that particular situation. So I don't know, I think I'm happy with Walter's placement.
Yeah, fair play, mate. Your choice to pick someone.
Let's go with Arvo.
Arvo. Ooh. Ali, thoughts?
It's weird because, like, at first, I mean, is he like the most likeable character in the thing? No. Does he get better as it goes on? Maybe you feel a little bit of sympathy for him when like Kenny's beating him to a pulp, but ultimately the guy does try and like steal the car from you. He does sort of like clearly go back to his Russian friends to organise an ambush. So actually, as I'm talking, I'm thinking maybe he's not very likeable at all. And yeah, is he a stronger character than Serita? I want to say no. What do you
Yeah, I'm
think?
happy to leave him there in D, mate. My theory is that I was never a fan of the Russian subplot anyway. For me,
Yeah.
I still retain that should have been the 400 Days cast because they got like absolutely stiffed, and I feel like them taking place of the Russians would create this really fascinating dynamic. It was such a mistrick. Yeah, so I just wasn't a fan of it, and I think Serita gets C because at least she was a good person. There's likability. Arvo, there's just nothing there for the guy. Like, you know, like you say, the only thing he's got is just the sympathy factor that like he's getting beaten to a pummel, even though he's just a kid. But other than that, yeah, like I'm happy to stick him rock bottom, mate. I'll go next. I'm gonna go for Mike. Now, we heard all those sort of rumors and stuff, didn't we? And there's a lot of stuff online to suggest that he was supposed to be one of the original bandits. They scrapped that. Then, like, there was just all this other stuff about him, and it looks like a lot of content in this game got cut, and Mike kind of suffers from that. And I feel like he was the biggest spare part in the group. He was likable enough. I feel like I kind of just want to put him like above Serita, but like D at this point. I don't think there's anything too much about him.
Yeah, I think honestly, the guy likable enough, but doesn't have much depth. So, yeah, I honestly see him like Serita in many ways. So I think them sitting next to one another makes perfect sense.
All right, mate. Hopefully you pick a bit of a better character. We're off to a pull start here, mate.
We are. Come on then, let's go for the villain, Carver. Where do we put him?
I think he is the greatest TellTale villain. He wasn't in the game long enough. Whether that affects his ranking or not, I don't know. But there's just something fascinating about him. His aura, the lines delivery by Michael Madsen, the fact that like he's not just some power wannabe. In his mind, he has a philosophy about like cutting off the weak for survival, for humanity, how you have to be strong. And I really like the dynamic between him and Clementine, the way he sort of sees Clementine as the future and he wants to kind of bring you on his side. It's definitely a fascinating one. I kind of want to give him an A, mate, just for the sheer impact he left. Like, it's been like a decade since the game, and I'm still kind of like, I still remember his scenes really vividly, and I feel like I have to honour that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you in that I think he is the greatest TellTale villain. Such a brilliant performance from Michael Madsen in the short time that we got. And it says a lot as well that when this character dies, and this does like maybe the episode rankings or like our analysis series in general, as soon as this character dies, we do feel that the plot of season 2 does lose its way a little bit. Whereas so much of the series was built around him, whether it's him following you, then there's the showdown at the lodge, then you've got like him holding you in like the prison or whatever. So yeah, I know he's not very likable, but I want to reward just like the impact of the character more than the likability. So yeah, I 100%.
Sweet. Okay, I am gonna go for let's talk about Carlos for a second, mate. So, I mean, I'll let you start, actually.
Yeah. I'm going to steal your point about him being a very poor doctor. So, because, I mean, we were talking about episode 1 with, like, the scratches, wasn't it? Or was it, no, it was the bite marks. It's like, it's clearly a dog. Like, how could you not tell as a doctor that that's not a dog bite and not a human bite? As a person, like, I don't think he gets talked about enough in terms of how he's handled Sarah in the apocalypse. You know, he's clearly got to a point where that she's this sheltered girl, so that, you know, she can't handle herself at all, and you need that in all the circumstances in the apocalypse. This is the time where you really need to nurture the people younger than you. To maybe help yourself out later on down the line, but certainly to help themselves out later on in life. So generally a likable guy. He means well. His methods are clearly flawed in what I've just said previous. So, but I'll rate him more than Mike. So I feel like he's a B character, but less than Walter. Is perhaps where I'd put him, mate.
Yeah, I hate the guy.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know, like, so all your points, but yeah, I just see Sarah get a lot of stick online, and I don't get it. It's down to the parent. It's down to him. If like Lee didn't train Clementine on the train, she could have easily become almost like a Sarah in a way. So yeah, all the points you mentioned, but I'll also throw in the fact that she basically leads the charge to throw a little girl in like a shed overnight, So I just don't back the guy at all. Lousy doctor, horrible methods, horrible decision making. Yeah, just everything about him. So yeah, I mean, I'll vouch for what you said. Hi, I'll put him above Mike and C. But honestly, mate, there's a part of me that wants to stick him in D. But I'll put him in C.
I had no idea you felt so strongly about Carlos.
Yeah, man. Yeah, fuck the guy.
What a dick. Right, so let's move on. We are going to pick next. Let's pick Alvin.
Yeah, I was picking Alvin actually.
Yeah. Now, for me, if I'm talking exclusively about my 2 playthroughs of Walking Dead, this guy would not be high. He'd probably sit in C as well. However, I think having looked at the branching of what happens if he dies, or if he stays alive into episode 3 when like Carver's like torturing him or whatever, the fact that he can assist you, like when he's like, isn't he like holding something against the door for Clementine to like stop them breaking in, and then ultimately like he then gets shot and killed. So like his likability like shoots him up like 3-fold for that. However, I am going to come back and say that the depth does suffer. It's a shame because there's this whole like subplot thread of obviously him being the father to, or not being the father to AJ, and it's clearly Carver, that I feel like could have been explored more in the forefront. Obviously, it was explored in the background because Carver was torturing him, but maybe we could have seen that tension a little bit more, which might have brought more out in Alvin. But as a result, we didn't see him as much on camera. So I'm looking at high C, low B.
Yeah, I was going to stick him 1 above Walter, actually. So I was thinking B. So I think the compromise would be here. Yeah, like obviously he very likable chap. The fact as well, his name resonates throughout the whole season because Alvin Jr. is named after his dad, Alvin. But yeah, it's just the fact as well that he gets to hero's death. Like, yeah, absolute badass way to go out to save the group. But I feel as well, yeah, like another character who probably suffers from cut content because there was supposedly supposed to be a fishing scene with him and Clem in episode 1, and that alone might have done wonders for him, but he never had that. So yeah, like I don't think he can go too much higher than a B, to be honest, mate. Right, next lad, I am gonna add. I'm kind of gonna do 2 in 1 here because I feel like they serve the same role. And for some reason, whoever made this list, I don't know what tobacco they were smoking, mate, but we've got Shell Becker. There's no Wyatt, there's no Russell, there's no Vince. Either the person hates men, or like the men in 400 Days, or what, I do not know. But we might as well just talk about the 400 Days as a bunch with these guys here alone, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've said this before in the analysis. They could have been used so much better. Like, you could have had them really turn against you. They were just sort of in passing when you come across them. If you did come across them, they could have been like, to avenge Carver. You could have had a real moral situation where like they could have been the ones to ambush you instead of like having the Russians coming out of nowhere. So there was so much missed potential with the 400 Days characters, and I feel like we just have to default put them in D because there is such little screen time of them that it would be unfair to put them any higher, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And obviously there's Bonnie, who we'll talk about later, who's a separate, character to discuss there. But yeah, the other guys get absolutely stiff. They just get one scene, and because they're supposedly like, we spend time with them in 400 Days, and we almost like, really resonate with these characters a little bit. And then like, we get into this game, and they've kind of sided with the villains, and then they're just villains themselves. But even then, they're not like evil people. They're just people who tell you, "Oh, get in line. Oh, you better see Carver. He doesn't like waiting." And like, we just get one piece of dialogue each from them, and it's really poor. And like, yeah, maybe you take that over nothing. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It is poor, and they really should have taken the places of the Russian guys, or at least the people around them, like Troy and that. So yeah, we'll stick him there. Probably even below Arvo, because at least Arvo, despite, the fact he was misused and stuff, he actually has a purpose in the plot. So yeah, I think where they are is fine, mate.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll shifty on and let's do Pete next, mate. I do
Uncle
have some
Pete.
thoughts on. Yeah. I don't know what it is about this character, especially like revisiting like to play it again for a second time. I feel like Pete is essentially Lee 2.0, and I think it's such a shame that he dies as early as he does. He just feels like the sort of the action hero. He's in there for Clem, dies a hero's death as well to like lure the walkers over to like help Clem get away. So I really rate Pete. Obviously the problem being is that he's not in the game long enough. We get him a little bit in episode 1 and then hardly in episode 2. So naturally that is going to hurt him a little bit. But so much, I want to put him in B. That's where I sit, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, I was literally thinking high B. I think you have to put him above Walter, don't you? Because he probably serves more screen time than Walter as well, and I think he is the better character. Like, yeah, like you say, he's probably the most level-headed, wisest of the characters, and it sucks in the new group you get into, which, let's face it, is a flawed group. He was, like, one of the better ones, but I almost agree with the decision to kill him off early, because I feel like a big theme of season 2 is almost like how you're better than the group, and this group might kill you and drag you down, and you have to like fix their problems a lot, even though you're like an 11-year-old girl or whatever it is. So like, I feel like killing him off early sets the tone for that. So yeah, I really like it. But yeah, high B, mate. I think so. Yeah, Pete, what a guy.
Let's do it. Yep.
I will go next. And I am going to go for, let's just go for Omid. So it's difficult to rate Omid, right? Because he's a season 1 character and he's in the game for the opening 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it. So it is really tough, mate. I feel like he is a really likable character. I loved the way his death scene was shot, and I feel like the moment you kill the light-hearted, fun Omid off, it kind of like sets the tone for the game again. So like, it almost, whether you agree with it or not, it certainly holds impact. Like, what a way to kickstart a game, get rid of the comedian, Yeah. I'm looking at this and I kind of want to say high C because I want to put him above Carlos and Mike, but I don't think you can quite justify going in B.
Yeah, I think so. He has more screen presence for me than Mike and Serita, even though that they're in it longer than him. I think B's too much of a stretch given how short he is in it. So yeah, I think so. C's fine with me, mate. Next up, you know what? Should we just get Christa out the way? It makes sense. Omid and Christa both being together. Christa. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I prefer Omid out of Omid and Christa. However, we do see Christa a bit longer. She's got more depth. You can see that she's clearly upset by his death, and the fact that she does deliver that epic kill as well. I talk about that shot, where like it's over her shoulder and she's got the gun, and I don't think she even looks at the woman in the bathroom. She just shoots and lets her die because she's so sort of consumed with like the grief of him dying that she's just looking at him, not even looking at her. So almost by that token, I sort of wonder whether she should go above Omid, but at the same time, that feels wrong. So I'm really conflicted about this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one as well, because on top of that, she obviously loses her baby as well, doesn't she? But I don't know, like, I get the impression that when she hangs out with Clem after the death, and it's like months later or whatever, he just feels like, obviously I get it, she's lost her like partner, her child, and now she's stuck with Clem, and she feels like a babysitter who's like, on an overdue shift or whatever. But yeah, so like we get this really salty version of her, but I think it's kind of poor writing. We never see her again. They're probably about the same, but I'm tempted to whack her there just for the fact that I like Omid more. And this is our list, we can do whatever the fuck we want, and I prefer Omid, so I'm just gonna get a bit of a nothing character out of the way. That there's this Matthew guy here, so he seems nice enough. Yeah. But then he falls off the bridge. Where the fuck can you put him?
He is quite literally the fall guy in this plot.
He is the fall guy. I think, like, I don't get why he's even here. Maybe below Serita, because I feel like D is kind of like the downright ugly category where, like, I don't want to harm him. Like, he's a plot device, isn't he? He's not a character. So maybe here.
Yeah, I think you're right. A sympathetic character, but again, you can't justify putting him higher. So yeah, I'm cool with it. I'll tell you what, mate, let's move on to his killer next. Let's move on to Nick. A guy that is just incompetent. I think his heart's in the right place, especially if you have, the start to episode 2 when it's like just you and Nick. And he does have some like down moments where he talks to you. So his heart's in the right place. Guy is a bit incompetent though. Like the whole thing with Matthew. What else? I swear there's like other things that he does as well. I'm now trying to relay back through the game. But there was like multiple points where I was thinking, Nick, come on, man. Like, what are you doing? Was it him that was something about Clem? There was something about Clem that he suggested towards in episode.
Well, yeah,
1.
and he like when she wakes up, he's trigger happy, isn't he? And nearly shoots her face off when she wakes up.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, he nearly kills her. So a guy that, even in terms of how he's used, like if he does get through episode 2, he doesn't feature in 3. Or at least not a lot, and then he just ends up dead in episode 4, stuck in a fence. So he's important enough because he does ultimately kill a character. I'm not gonna say he's B though. I'm sort of looking at the C character, the C categories like growing by the minute, but I can't justify putting him higher than that. What about you?
I'm on the fence with him. No, sorry, I had to. I was gonna put him in B below Pete because, like, I get Walter and Alvin are nice, but I don't know. He serves more of a plot thing in there, and like you say, his heart's in the right place, but there's just too many incidents, and it's a little bit like the Ben theory, isn't it? Like, yeah, nice guy and all, but the longer you keep him, what other incidents could happen in the long run, and yeah, the way his writing was handled wasn't great. Clearly, it's just a telltale curse. If a character can die off, they'll just die off like later on anyway. Like they'll keep him in the background until they get a canon death or like inevitable death. So yeah, but if I'm saying mid B and you're saying C, I guess we put him high C above Omid.
Or low B.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll put him here then. I feel like he's in it enough, and you know he's justified. It's like I say, I always thought he was just in there to like be a fake out for Kenny in the trailer, but yeah. Let's go for Jane, mate. Now, obviously, we have done a big video on Kenny versus Jane. Link in the description, whatever. If you guys want to check that out. Everyone knows I am a massive fan of Jane. The moment we saw her in the prison, where they speak about, this girl was like, they found her outside, she was covered in zombie guts. I just was like, yeah, this girl knows what she's doing. She's super level-headed. We talk about like how Kenny's the dog, Jane's the cat. She is like a survivalist, maybe a bit cold-hearted, a bit insensitive, but she is a survivor. And you know, like there is a theory she is better for Clem. There is like obviously the baby thing at the end is horrible. I think it's almost poor writing. But I really like Jane, and it's really sad to see how, if you keep her the whole way, how they write her off in season 3. And I don't think she's S, but I really want to put her in A. Probably maybe lower than Carver, just because of how impactful Carver is. Or higher than Carver. I'm indifferent, mate. But I'm thinking somewhere in A.
As you was talking, that's exactly what I was going over in my mind. Does she go below Carver, above Carver? Because you're absolutely right. Like, without treading on the toes of that video that we did too much, but she is arguably what Clem actually needs. You know, someone that's actually really ruthless, quite cold-hearted, someone that puts her interests most of the time above, you know, the sort of the interests of the group as a means to survive in an apocalypse. Is she above Carver though? I don't know.
I think, you know, maybe we'll say no for the pure factor that although Carver was in it just a little bit, just that sheer statement of me saying he's the greatest TellTale Walking Dead villain, I feel that by putting him higher, maybe.
Yeah, that's cool with me. Next up, we are gonna do Troy. Let's do Troy next.
Troy, laddie. Right, let's go. Okay, it glitched there. Like I say, I think maybe put Vince from the 400 Days cast instead of him there. He serves his purpose well. He's like the kind of like the shitty henchman who's no nonsense. But there's just not much beyond that. I did weirdly like the vulnerability moment at the end before he dies, where it turned out him and Jane had a thing, and then he was kind of like a bit of a puppet to her. I don't know, that almost gave him a little bit of depth. Not that you feel sorry for him, but I like the fact that because of that moment, he suddenly isn't just this like, evil, mean villain who wants to survive and serve Carver. He suddenly actually has a bit of humanity to him. So because of that, I kind of want to whack him in C. Maybe above Matthew, below Serita, somewhere around there.
I think so. I think he's either high D, low C, isn't he? And apart from, it's literally what you said. I don't think you can go much further than that. Like, he's clearly the right hand man. He's there as the muscle. He's there as the brute. He has that moment of weakness at the end. I'll roll with that. Yeah, I'll see.
Okay. I am gonna go for probably. Let's just do the main character, get them out of the way, mate. Tavia. I love everything about her. Just what a person, right? But for real, like, I just nothing. Fucking bland, mate. Like.
She's good cop, isn't she? If Troy's bad cop, Tavia's the more good cop. And
even then, because she's a part of the bad group, you just can't sympathise with her. So she falls in this flat. She falls in this flat area, doesn't she? Where like you would happily kill her to escape the prison, but she's not necessarily doing anything wrong. But like, she's just kind of there, you know. I feel like
below Arvo, above Shell and
yeah, because I don't know. I
Bethany.
know it feels weird that I'm putting her below Troy, but like I say, Troy has that bit of humanity, and him being meaner actually makes him serve the purpose better than Tavia. I don't know. It's weird, but like Troy had more of a presence about him. Like if I get caught sneaking around as Clementine in Hal's hardware store, I'd feel a lot more scared going in front of Troy than I would Tavia.
Also, do you remember what even happens to Tavia?
Nah, she kind of just I think she's one of the figures at the top shooting, but I don't think we know. It's
She
an
just falls
undetermined
off,
ending.
doesn't she? Which I think says a lot. So I'm quite happy that she actually falls beneath Troy. Because yeah, I can't remember what happens to her, if anything happens to her.
Yeah, fuck it. Falls into the island of irrelevancy.
Next up, mate, shall we do a character that I personally think is a little overrated? Hot take, I know. We're going to talk about Luke.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, like for me, I do. I find the guy a little bit. Like I say, if I could pick who I'd want to see carry on in the story out of Luke and Pete, I'd have actually picked Pete. Luke, a good guy, a little bit on the sort of wishy-washy side, like when they're sat round in episode 3 planning their escape, and he's like, maybe we should just stay here. And I'm like, come on, Luke, like, you know, you've just been imprisoned, like you've got a chance to escape, like you're gonna, you know, get out and whatnot. And the guy's just like really passive, so I sort of disagree with that. His death in the lake is really cool. I know perhaps arguably that's not what was originally intended, so maybe he's sort of like done. He's sort of hard done by there. What else have you got to add, mate? I mean, in terms of position, clearly likeable. I would probably put him in the B category, but on the lower end. But that's just my take.
I mean, I'm a fan of Luke, so I was gonna say A below Jane, so I guess maybe we put him high B above Pete then as a compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I don't know, there's something about Luke that I really like. I feel like obviously when Pete goes out the group, he's kind of the one that you feel like you can have a conversation with. He's really good for Clementine, the way they'll like take out walkers together. I feel like Luke actually needs Clementine as well, because like with Nick off the rails, like there's almost just someone else who's a survivalist and that's level-headed. Yeah, I just don't like the way he was handled, like kind of like contrasting with Kenny a lot, and then how like just cheaply he was kind of written off. But like you say, yeah, his death is cool. But yeah, Luke, one of the good ones. So yeah, like yeah, I would have personally said low A, but I feel like yeah, high B is a good compromise, mate.
Yeah.
We'll go for Sarah next. So I kind of mentioned it with Carlos earlier. I really feel for Sarah, you know. She's just a child who just isn't equipped for the world. I have this theory that personally I think she might have like some like form of like learning disability. Maybe she's got like or like maybe potentially she's like somewhere on the spectrum. So like that's why she was put in a box, but inevitably that actually harms her. And I feel like Sarah's the kind of person where she could probably have a lot to contribute, but she was never given the tools to succeed. And thus she suffers a really fucking horrible death, not once but at another spaces as well. So yeah, I really feel for this girl. And yeah, like she's got behavior issues, she's slightly annoying, she'll like speak up in front of Carver and it will get her in trouble. And she inevitably accidentally kills Reggie off, who we're going to talk about later. But I don't know, I'm thinking just out of the pure sympathy, and what's really interesting about her is that like I was one of those people, like when I was younger and I was like first played this game when I was like 17, I couldn't stand her, but I've grown up and I'm like, oh my god, like no, I don't hate her, it's Carlos I hate. So I kind of want to put her low B below Nick, I think.
Low B before Nick. I was thinking somewhere in the middle. So actually, we're not that far apart at all. So I think anywhere between Walter and Nick, I think
Okay,
she
yeah,
could
let's go
easily
there then.
slot in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? Like, the more the list goes on, the more I'm looking at like Walter. Like, how the fuck have you ended up there? So like, I don't know if we want to like late alter it, but I'm kind of like, yeah, tempted to put her above Walter, to be honest, mate.
Walter is like the point, isn't it? Sort of like,
But you know, like
Right.
we're blind doing the list. You know, it's going to be messy. This is the point of the video, right? It's a discussion video, so it's fine.
Yeah. Next up, we are gonna do. Come on, let's just get Clementine on there. Let's get Clementine on there. Wow. Obviously, there's a lot of baggage going into this season. She's mourning the death of Lee. Obviously, she's then separated from Omid and Christa. She's on her own. She's having to navigate through a group. Episode 1, she's thrown into a situation where having to, sew up her arm. On the run, reunited with a friend. She has, again, as ridiculous as it is, and we've said this like a lot of times, but she does have to take a lot of responsibility in this group. And she does grow throughout the season. Whether she's looking at Jane, whether she's looking at Kenny, I think what she has to figure out is that, loyalty can be a double-edged sword, but also that cutting yourself off can actually be kind of cold, I guess. So you've almost just got to keep your wits about you with whoever you're with. Have you got anything to add, mate? Before?
Yeah, I guess that obviously we're playing. She's the main character. We weren't playing as her in season 1, but we are playing with her now. And I feel like in season 1 she was a little younger, and they kind of went down that whole adorable trope where she said some cute things and she was scared, but she was learning and growing. And season 1 Clementine is probably the best Clementine, but I think they were smart to steer away from that because we're playing as her now, and she had to toughen up a little bit, get thicker skin. Yeah, like you say, she sewed her arm up. She had to fix a wind turbine, so just big time. Inevitably though, mate, I just want to stick her in S, to be honest, because this is Clementine. This is one of the most iconic video game characters. You just have that cat, exactly who it is. And I think we all grew up playing this game where she was the little girl we looked after, and I just almost feel putting her anywhere other than S is an absolute sin, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. Whack her in S.
I will now go for. Is it Rebecca?
It is.
It is Rebecca,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
You know what? Rebecca's fascinating because when you meet her, you overhear her say, "Oh, please let the baby be his." So you have this leverage on her, and she's mean to you, and you can kind of mess with her. And in the recent playthrough you just were chaotic and you fucked with her a little bit, and it was a really enjoyable experience. And I feel what I like about her is that the more you spend time in the group and earn your keep, the more she likes you and apologetic she gets. And she's bad come good, and I actually quite like the arc of her. So I kind of want to say B, to be honest, mate.
I'm so conflicted over this character because actually she's arguably the most important person in that group. And the reason I say that is because the whole reason Carver is going after them is mostly due to her, because she's carrying his child. As a character though, she does fall a little on the bland side to me. It was good, like you say, having a little bit of fun with her at the start, and then as time goes on she starts to become a bit more likable. There was an interesting comment someone put in one of our analysis videos, basically saying that Rebecca and Alvin, they're basically a substitute, Omid and Christa. When you think about like Rebecca being pregnant, obviously Christa was pregnant as well. And I can't quite shake that opinion now. Hence why I'm so conflicted, because she's so important, but equally she doesn't stand out. Like if you were to say to me, name the group from season 2, Rebecca's probably like, I don't know, 5th on the list that I'd come out with. So likable, well written ish. I'm looking at high C. I'm looking at high C, low B.
Yeah, I said lowest in B, so we'll whack her there, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, your turn, mate.
Yeah. Next up, let's do Reggie next. Let's do Reggie. I personally really like Reggie. I think the real thing with Reggie for me, and this is where he comes up against Carver, it's so interesting, like the whole philosophical angle on like, you know, people's ideologies and what their takes are. But Reggie's like got to this point, whether he's like that already, but he's just so submissive, isn't he? Like he sort of thinks, guys, like we've got everything here. Like maybe there's people that agree with that school of thought. Maybe they're sort of happy to be slaves, really, as a means to then keep the sort of the likes of, you know, like your food, your electricity, your shelter, X, Y, and Z. Funny, light-hearted guy. It is sad when he dies. It is unexpected, and then again, he's not in it very long. So I'm looking at. Ooh, where am I looking? I'm looking at C again. Somewhere between Carlos and Serita, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, I was gonna say between Carlos and Christa, actually. So I was also thinking C. Yeah, like, and you know what you said, the whole perspective thing. I quite like it. It's cool that we get a bit of lore of like how like a successful amputation can work. I love it when you get a different perspective in a wider group that says actually it's not all that bad. Like instead of just being another voice like, oh, it's terrible here, which they could have easily have done. But yeah, and you know, he changes the tone a little bit. Obviously quite a comedic, light-hearted character. Nice to see that. I can't shake the feeling though that they just got like, because he's voiced by Kumail Nanjiani, like, you know, a big actor who's got quite an iconic voice, and I feel like maybe he rocked up on the studio and they just created a character and made the most of him being on set for a day. I don't know, obviously that's quite far-fetched, but he almost just feels like they just took advantage of a celebrity. It's a possibility, right? So I think the compromise there is he falls about here than me.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I think we've got to end it on Kenny. So we'll go Bonnie next. Now, Bonnie for me. Now, I've always really liked Bonnie. Obviously, it's nice to see a 400 days person come good, going, you know, in the game. There are flaws there, though. I like the fact that she's like got a, you know, a non-determined ending, so she can actually die, but she drives away with Mike, either willingly and hating you, whether you got Luke killed, or whether like she's kind of feels sorry and she's sobbing as, you know, like the group's like shot you as she goes away. But like, I don't know, it's just a flip-flop nature, isn't it, of like how she's just kidnapped you, but then she feels sorry and then tries to make it up to you by buying you a coat, and then, but you know, eventually she does redeem herself, coming back to the group, and she is slightly different. I just think maybe she falls short with the fact that she doesn't get that many interesting storylines. Like episode 4, the weakest episode, Amid the Ruins, for example, her task is literally the dullest part, where you go to a museum and you have to carry water. So I really like her, but I think she falls mid B for me, mate.
Yeah, is she? I feel like Bonnie's a tough cat. I mean, you could say it's about a few characters, but the thing with Bonnie that sticks in my mind is it's almost like very choice driven as to what Bonnie you get. So in terms of likability, like if you say all the right things, do all the right things, you can have a Bonnie that's really supportive and friendly with you. Equally, you can have a Bonnie that, you know, scarpers and is like very sort of damning of you towards the end of the game. So by that token, and then obviously, like as you've mentioned, she does lure you into sort of the Carver's thing in the first place. So a little bit of conflict there. Is she well written? Yes. She is the best of the 400 Days characters. Yeah, I'm happy with B. I probably would say between Alvin and Nick, maybe.
Yeah, see, I think above Sarah, below Pete, so I think the compromise would be there.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll put a smack bang in the middle then.
Yeah.
And finally, we've got the boy Kenny. Now, for me, the only place I feel like he's going in A here, mate. I feel like he's Jane's equal. I will put him above Jane because, like, that's what the fans say. I feel like majority of people like prefer Kenny over Jane, so I feel like I will honor that and rank him higher. Although, I know in your book, Jack, he's probably going to be an S here. I really love the writing of Kenny. I love the fact that the game could have easily have just brought him back and he became the next Lee where he's this perfect guy. But now they basically made him season 1 Kenny where he's this flawed, hot-headed, irrational guy. But then the guy's gone through a lot. He's had all these losses. That they actually take that and slowly amplify it through the game where a big theme of the game is like someone's mental decline because of how much they've gone through, and at what point do you actually cut them, or like do you stick with someone who's mentally declining kind of thing, or do you honor survival instead? So it is such a fascinating scene, but I can't help but feel like at the end of the day this is the guy that is in our original group. This is like your uncle figure, isn't he? And one of the most iconic scenes for me in season 2 is reuniting with him. And it doesn't matter how old I am and how many times I've seen that scene, but when you break through the group at the ski lodge and you break through the barrier and his eyes lock onto you, even, mate, I'm not even shitting you, talking about it now is giving me goosebumps and the hairs on my arm are standing up. Like, that scene gives me chills no matter how many times I see it. So, like, yeah, you know what? Probably above Carver, actually. Like, high A, if not. If you want to put him in S, mate, I will honour that, but probably not above Clementine.
Yeah, for me, it's either above Carver in A or below Clem in S. I'm gonna go for S. I mean, obviously Clementine almost default S, but we make the choices as Clem, so weirdly her development as a character is through us. Kenny gets like this development and this sort of level of writing that is superb. Like the arc that he goes on, clearly sort of the things that happens to him, you see his mental decline, plus we've got the context of season 1 as well. I'm trying to think back now where we put him in season 1, like what tier, but for me he's an S character. He's the sort of typical character that he's, you love him, you hate him. I love him. He has flaws, but that just shows how strong the writing is. But I do think that his intentions are pure. He, more often than not, is trying to help the group. His methods might be flawed here and there, but he's more than not trying to help the group. And I feel like this is where maybe the likability factor comes in. The interesting thing is that I think Carver is where Kenny could end up had he not died, or if he was to live and ultimately get into a position where the trauma and all the baggage got on top of him, he could become a Carver. But I'm putting him above Carver because I do think that he still has a heart and a soul, and his heart's in the right place. So yeah, for me, he's S, mate. Brilliant character.
I will honour that, and I'll put him in S for you because, yeah, like, I agree. Like, because obviously, yeah, I'm Team Jane, 100%, but, like, Kenny is the better written character. I'm picking Jane over Kenny because I think, like, Kenny's been through enough and I want to, like, let him go out of, like, kindness, I think Kenny is just an absolute great character. Like I say, he's that uncle figure. We've been with him thick and thin in season 1. I didn't always agree with him, but you know, that's family, isn't it? You don't always agree with them, but you still love them. So yeah, like, let's put him in S, you know. His final season, well, ish, like if you had him in season 3, if you were unfortunate to have him in season 3. But yeah, good way to like rank Kenny for like his final ranking probably. But yeah, Jack, that is our final ranking. Now, obviously, I will leave the link for this exact tier maker in the description if you guys want to play it yourselves. But yeah, no, I had a blast doing this. If you guys want to see any more Walking Dead Season 2 videos, let us know. And if you guys enjoy these styles of tier list videos, let us know on what games and characters you want us to do it for. Jack, anything to add?
No, that's all from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. See you soon.